talk about truth, you talk about Vedas.
Mhm.
I have two questions for you today. Do you believe in God? And does God really exist?
Two questions. Do I believe in God? Does God really exist? And my answer is pretty straight. I don't believe in God, but God does exist.
Wait, isn't there a contradiction there?
Not really. There's no contradiction. Let me explain to you. For me, God is truth, and no belief is necessary to accept something that is true. For example, that you're sitting in front of me is a truth. Do I have to believe that you're sitting in front of me? I don't need to do that. So, similarly for me, God, which is truth, is just there. I don't need to believe in it being there. Now, the second question, does it exist? You must understand whether something is true or false, whether it is tangible or abstract. They all must first exist before we are able to accept whether it's truth or something that is false. So, from this point of view, God for me, which is truth, must exist all the time. So, I consider God to be existent.
So now I'm curious to know who your God is then.
I don't have one God, I have two gods. Both these gods are necessary for my living and sustenance. The first God, without which I can't even understand your question whether there is God, whether I believe in God, nor can I answer that question. And that is the consciousness. Consciousness also is that entity which enlivens me and enables me to function. And it does that for everybody. So, consciousness is first God for me. And then in the second, I have seven. They are the five elements of nature: the earth, water, air, fire, and space, and sun and moon. From all these, I get energy, and that energy is required for sustaining my body and mind from birth until the last breath. So, therefore, for me, all these seven plus one are my gods. The consciousness is primary, and the seven other gods are secondary based on my understanding to interpret the definition of God with my intellect, which is limited. I say that gods must be omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. Consciousness qualifies on all three counts. Consciousness is omnipotent because without consciousness, there is no existence possible. Therefore, it's omnipotent. Is it omnipresent? It is absolutely. It is here and beyond this universe, and it's everywhere. So it's omnipresent. Is it omniscient? Absolutely. Because consciousness knows everything, because everything is preceded by consciousness. All acts and all acts of cognition, they all are preceded by consciousness. Therefore, by virtue of that, consciousness is absolutely omnipresent. When you look at the seven other gods, which I classify as the secondary gods, all of them are omnipresent. They are everywhere. They are omnipotent because it gives the same nourishment to me here and to someone in Tokyo and the other person in some other place. So it is also omnipotent. But does Earth know everything that is happening in the entire world? No. Does water know? No. So these five elements and sun, they do not know exactly what is happening in terms of awareness. So because of that, they do not qualify on all three counts, but only two counts. And therefore, they are classified as secondary gods for me.
Well, in that case,
Mhm.
why are sacred places of worship built then?
Oh, that's another very good question. Places of worship are necessary because for a layman to understand this profound concept of God, which is consciousness, which is not perceived by human senses, it's difficult for a normal person to fathom. But a normal person is constantly in need of some kind of a support coming from an external source. And that source, typically, the man wants it to be of a higher nature, someone who can guide them, someone who can help them in distress, whether in true form or through psychological impact. That doesn't really matter. But people just want to depend on somebody, particularly when they go through stress and they are distressed. So, religion, which came into the picture some few thousands of years ago, they wanted to promote the gods and places of worship in order to inculcate devotion as a concept was very important because when you are devoted, two things happen. Um, Devotion builds positivity in you, and devotion also allows you to stabilize yourself and your mind when it goes through distress. So, this devotion had to be inculcated, for which a place of worship was created, and idols were created and considered to be sacred. So, when you have a picture of this order, the mind of the person who is depressed or distressed is comfortable to visit a temple and seek some kind of a solace. Now, whether this solace is actually coming from these idols or not, that's immaterial. But he feels nice, even for a moment or two, as long as he's there and devotes himself through devotion, or even simply talking to these gods, he feels comfortable. So, the Vedas accept both worship of these gods for this purpose, but clearly, Vedas want you to eventually start worshipping that consciousness without which nothing can exist. Your ability to go and worship these gods also won't be there. So, uh, these places of worship are almost part of your daily life.
Right, then you mentioned that your God is consciousness. So does that mean, all human life have consciousness? Are we all gods then?
Not only human life, every object that you see here in this world, within the world, every object which is fragment of the whole, everything must have consciousness in it. And by virtue of that, literally, whatever you see in front of you is part of that whole. And so, that whole being the consciousness, everything must be worshipped as God. Anywhere, you don't really need to go to a temple. I see this wall, there's God in it. I see you, there is God in it. So, everywhere, this truth is prevalent. And the truth, as I said, is God for me. And so, everyone is really God.